2, 3.
Let's go. I love to see the temple. I'm going there someday to feel the Holy Spirit, to listen and to pray.
It is time for another episode of the Cultural Hall. As the music would let you know, it is a Temple Ticker episode. What? We just had one? I know. It seems like we've got a lot of Temple stuff recently, and I want to make sure that we don't get an hour and a half long of Temple news. That's much too long. That is much too long. We invite the Pharaoh in. Why? Because he gets whatever he wants, Corey K. Ward, the Pharaoh himself, to talk about all things Temple. You have prepared and is available in the show notes. Notes upon notes upon notes about all of the things that we will talk about tonight. But I need to let you know how very sure I am of two things, and they are Temple related.
Let me hear it.
One, there will be a center of the state of Utah Temple off of I-15 in Spring Conference 2026.
Sorry, say that again. A state of the art off I-15?
Middle of the state of Utah, right off of I-15 Temple. Now, will they do it Cove Fort? No, I don't think so. There's no other sort of infrastructure there. Will they do it in Beaver? Maybe. You got that great creamery that people stop and, shop at and all that, and then the tire place that rips people off by preying upon your fears. You're going to go over the pass with terrible tires like that? That's a story for a different time, but that gas station there does it. Could be, but that's a little close to Cedar City. Meadow, again, Meadow a little too small. I think that we Fillmore and pay homage to former president, the original capital of the territory and the history, blah, 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 there, right? So I'm saying Fillmore, but not for another year. We just got Spanish Fork, don't get greedy. That's one Temple thing. I drove through there and I thought, yeah, but I'm not feeling it like I felt Price right before I called it and right before Spanish Fork. So it's got to be a year out. The second thing is, I want to know why there's a Monticello, Utah temple.
Why?
Yeah.
Do you know the history behind that temple?
Well, I know it's the first of the small temples. I know that it was dedicated in 1998. I know that it is a President Hinckley temple. I know that it is convenient for the saints that live over there, but guess what? Spoiler, no saints live over there. That is the smallest town. My wife and I, one of many things that she has to put up with in being married to me is that if we are even adjacent to a temple, we go off the road, get a quick picture. She says, do we have to? I say, yes. She says, you won't post this? I say, no, I promise. And we get a picture by the temple. Monticello is the smallest of towns, and it is this beacon of beauty and pristineness that does not fit in that town. Not to say it's a trashy town. That's not what I'm saying. It just is. It's the house of the Lord in a teeny, small town. And the temple's not open, but an hour, probably a month, maybe, if even that.
It is. Well, there is a stake in Monticello.
Sure.
There's a stake in Blanding, which Blanding is actually a bigger city, so I don't know exactly why President Hinckley chose Monticello over Blanding. And there's also stake headquarters in Moab. So there's at least 3 stakes, and until just this year, there's also some stakes in Farmington, Mexico, some stakes in Grand Junction, Colorado.
Sure.
All of them have been going to the Monticello temple. But as we'll talk in later, there's temples that have been recently completed in Farmington and Grand Junction. So basically, Monticello will be left with just like 3 stakes.
Yeah, and they're not close, and there's not a lot of people. Now, hear me very loudly, Monticello people, because I know that there are people that are at least attendees of the Monticello Temple. I'm not trying to take it away from you, and I'm not saying anything negative of the House of the Lord, or particularly that one. They just got a brand new Moroni, and it is sleek. It is a shiny new Moroni. Good for them. Great.
You know the history behind the Moroni?
Well,
in
he
Monticello.
he came to the prophet Joseph 4 years in a row. No, I don't. It got struck by lightning. Tell me.
So when President Hinckley had his idea or revelation for these small 10,000 square foot temples, he started with three locations that would be kind of test cases. The first one was in Monticello, the second one was in Anchorage, Alaska, and then the third one was in Colonial Juarez, Mexico. And so Monticello happened to be the first one to be completed out of those three. And they completed it with just one ordinance room, one sealing room, and then they also dedicated it with ancient Moroni that was white colored.
Hmm.
But after only like a year of completion there in Monticello, they found that it was actually too small. And so they had a renovation just like a year or two afterwards, where they added a second ceiling room, a second ordinance room, and then they changed out the gold, I mean the white Moroni for gold Moroni, because they said it like the white kind of just like disappeared in the sky,
Hmm.
in the clouds on a cloudy day. So they decided to go back with the classic gold.
Yeah, okay, so I can get it. Like if they're going to be open, hey, we want to do more than one ceiling, and if we're getting people here to run this thing, uh, but I feel bad that my mind goes this way, that I am this type of person, judgment heaped upon me. I want to know like who we did that for. Like who was that? Was there a person? Is there a family? Is there, is there some sort of something that
Do you
we
know
did
about
that for? It does
do you know
not
about
make
the
sense.
do you know about the hole in the rock pioneers?
Okay, sure.
Have you heard of those?
Sure.
Yeah, so it was like I think it was Brigham Young. He called a group of saints to go from southern Utah, St. George area, to go settle the area by the Native American Navajo Nation, because he wanted, some more Latter-day Saint control in that area of the territory of Utah.
Hmm.
So he called these families to go and settle what eventually became Bluff, Utah. And they had to basically, there's a place near Lake Powell where they basically blew up a hole in the rock in the canyon to get through. So I would say why they put a temple there was because to thank all the descendants of the pioneers that they asked them to go settle that area because it
Okay.
was a tough area to settle.
Okay, like a thank you, an ancestral thank you. I'll buy
Yeah.
that because listen, I'm not trying to be inciting or excitable or any of those things. Okay, I am a little, but it was stark to me how small that town is,
Yeah.
and like there's like six really nice houses around it, and then the rest are small town Utah houses that you're just like, what? Why this? What this is here? Okay, that's it. Those are my two bits of temple news. Now I'll turn the time over to the Pharaoh himself to take us through actual temple news. Starting in what, New Zealand? Is that where we start?
Yeah, there was a temple dedication this past Palm Sunday on April 13th. And Elder Kieran of the Quorum of the Twelve was there to dedicate the Auckland, New Zealand temple. So the second temple in New Zealand. The first temple in New Zealand, the Hamilton Temple, was the first one in the Pacific. So a lot of the coverage in the church news just talked about like now there's something like 22 in the Pacific, and this will now be the second in New Zealand. There's a third planned as well in the southern part of the island. And of course, because of it being Palm Sunday, Elder Kieran, that was a lot of his theme of what he talked about. Um, we all know that when there's a temple dedication that they do what's called the Hosanna shout,
Mhm.
and he said that the meaning of the word Hosanna is to cry, "Save us" or "Rescue us," and it would also mean "We thank thee, we love thee, we praise thee." So when Jesus entered Jerusalem, they celebrated with cries of Hosanna. So he found it particularly moving that they did that on Palm Sunday.
Mm. Pretty amazing to learn more about the church history in New Zealand. The fact that, and I did we talk about this before? The once upon a time they thought maybe they would move church headquarters to New Zealand because of the fighting they were getting with the United States government here, but they were like, nah, it's not going to work.
I think we did have because the Hamilton, New Zealand temple was dedicated last year, maybe.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about that.
And then also, yeah, Temple View is the name of this community that's like colonial Juarez. That's like, hey, who's Mormon? And everyone's like, all of us, yay! We're all
It
Mormon. This is a little Mormon conclave, and it really is
really
like
was because they had a
high
church
density.
college there.
Yes,
And so that whole area by the Hamilton Temple, if you, what I always like to do is go to the Meeting House locator and look at the ward boundaries and all around the world. And the ones in Hamilton, New Zealand are literally like in maybe Utah or even smaller,
wow.
like small town Utah or smaller, where only like a few blocks um, are one ward. And
And
so
English, so I'm out. I'm done. Forget it, United States. I'm going to New Zealand. Will they let
I
me?
heard people are moving from New Zealand. Like New Zealanders are immigrating out of the country partially because it's just so expensive to live there. But that might
Okay.
mean that there's some extra space there for you to move in.
Great. Great. Put me in Temple View. Temple View, New Zealand. All right, so that temple
Zion, yeah.
is dedicated in 203, 203, which
Number
seems
203.
it seems so
And
low.
it's so low.
Yeah, like because it seems
Well,
like it was forever ago that we had Deseret Peak, and that was 200.
yeah, I mean, they basically around Christmas time, they kind of there's a lull in the dedications and open houses, and then they start again in the kind of the late winter, and then the dedications start in the spring. So in the next few months, we'll see some more dedications.
Okay, okay, you don't have to apologize. I get it. Just does seem low. Um, so 204 is that Nairobi, Kenya? Is that where we're headed? Is that
Nairobi,
gonna be two hours?
that'll be the next one.
And that is doing the open house,
Yeah, that
right?
just
Yeah.
started an open house this week, actually.
Cool.
So it started on, it's going to continue through May 3rd. There was a media day on April 14th. Elder Matumbo of the 70 was there to give that tour. I think he's from maybe the DRC is what his background is. But I think he's serving in the East Africa area. So they released the photographs of this temple. Oh, something cool about Elder Matumbo is that he shared a story about a dream that his father had before he joined the church, and he said that after he joined the church, that he kind of started to interpret that dream as wanting to go inside of a building and not knowing what it was. But he said now he recognized that it was a temple, and he had a desire to enter that building. And so Elder Matumbo is like a second generation member of the church. Um, and then yeah, we saw the interior photos of the temple. Very African temple, I would say. They did a good job at doing some of the motifs and design that are common in East Africa. I really like the rugs. A lot
Yes, I
of
was
the
just
rugs look
looking at
like
that.
if you look at anyone like a woman's dress or one of those traditional male suits that you would picture from Africa, it looks exactly like that. And so I really like that in the foyer.
An amazing job. And so that'll get that is open house, but we don't have a dedication date for that set yet.
No, we do. It will be May 18th.
And who's doing that one?
Um, just give me a second. It's Elder Soares.
Oh, cool. Okay. And
This is
then
also kind of the when this temple was it was announced by President Monson, one of the last ones he announced. And in that time, they also created the East Africa area, which is headquarters in Nairobi. So right next to the temple, you have like a multi-purpose building, which has like the housing, the patron housing, has a chapel, and it has probably a lot of the offices for this area. Um, and then also has a Christus statue, which is the first one, I think, for Africa, the first Christus
really?
statue to be displayed by the church in Africa.
And that's outdoors. Wow, that is gorgeous. Oh my goodness. That is cool. You got to check that out. All the links to these things in the show notes. That is unreal. That's cool. What a great, yeah, what a great thing. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. So that will be dedicated. We'll probably talk about that dedication in the next temple ticker that we do. But let's talk about some dedications that are to be announced and the what we speculate would be the number alongside it. We go to Chile.
Yeah, the next one announced. I was really surprised by this because this temple has been, from the pictures that have been posted for the last 6 months, it looks like it's done. I was really surprised that they had not announced a open house yet or dedication. But when they announced this dedication and open house, They announced it only a month away. So it will start May 14th, go through the 24th. So literally like it was like the 14th of April that they announced this,
Jeez.
which normally these open houses are announced like 6 months, 3 months in advance at least. And so only having a 1 month in advance was kind of interesting. It'll be dedicated on June 15th, and Elder Gary Stevenson will be there. It first, I think before we already discussed that Abidjan, Ivory Coast will be number 205,
Mhm.
Syracuse, Utah 206. So this will put Antofagasta, Chile at 207.
Okay, so now the numbers are start cooking a little bit. Not that it's about numbers, it's about souls and all that stuff, but now that's starting to make a little more sense to me that we see all those coming through. You want to take a road trip to Elko with me?
Maybe we've
I,
talked about this. Do we know?
let's do it. I'll take you. I can't remember what the name of the restaurant is. There's like a restaurant. It's like the Wagon Wheel or the Wagon Chuck, the Chuck Master, or the I don't know. It's something right in town, right on the drag. I'll take you to it. If we end
How
up going,
many?
I'll take you
What's
to
the
it.
drive from Salt Lake City
4 hours, I bet.
4 hours?
Yeah,
Okay.
ish. I'll put you in the
Ish.
back seat. You don't have to talk to me.
Well, it's going to have an open house August 30th to September 13th. And then also Gary Stevenson will be there on October 12th for that dedication. So I think, remember we discussed in Argentina, there was a temple that he was going to dedicate, and then like last minute they just like switched him out. Elder
Mhm.
Rasband went and did it.
Mhm.
Still no explanation of why that happened or why he missed his BYU devotional that week as well. But I guess they're kind of giving him some makeup. Here's your makeup work. You can go to Chile in June and then Elko in October.
Here's your packet, Elder Stevenson. Now, someone though that listens, and I wish I could remember. I think that someone said, "Oh, hey, here's why." Man, it's in the back of my brain, but I feel like someone said, "Hey, and you know why?" And then I said, "Oh yeah, I got to lock that up and then tell the Pharaoh about it." But I don't actually remember what it was.
Oh
Shoot.
yeah.
Yeah. It also could be nothing. No idea. Okay. So Elko's 3 hours and 22 minutes. I'll put you in the back seat, give you some work to do so we don't have to talk. You can listen to some podcasts or something like that. And then we can eat during dinner, tour the temple, and then drive back. I'll do that.
Nice. I like it.
Okay. Deal. Done. Grand
Okay,
Junction, Colorado. This is one of the ones that you were talking about that will take away from the Monticello Temple.
I believe so. The Grand Junction Temple will have an open house September 11th to September 27th. And then they'll have a dedication on October 19th, and President Jeffery Holland will be there.
Hmm. And probably just close in proximity, right? Does he have any sort of family history? I know he's a Southern Utah guy, uh, or elder or, apostle traditionally, but no like outward connection to Grand Junction that we know.
Not that I know of, but as well, I think the first presidency is the one that typically makes the assignments for temple dedications. But I'm sure the acting president of the Quorum of the Twelve probably has a lot to do with that as well. So maybe he chose himself to do it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I choose me. Perfect.
Which is a good sign because normally when leaders are poor in health, they don't like to announce far in advance these dedications because there's always a chance in those few months that they could pass.
Hmm.
So it's a good sign for his health if they're scheduling him out to October.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Okay. So let's do this Bahia Blanca, Argentina, and then we'll take a quick break and get into some renderings and construction and appeals and court case and all that stuff in the second half.
Yeah, the last dedication that was announced this month was Bahia Blanca, Argentina. There'll be an open house October 16th to November 1st. And then there'll be a dedication on October 23rd, and Elder Soares will be there. This
All right.
temple is a few hours south of Buenos Aires. And yeah, I think it'll be the fifth temple in Argentina.
Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back in the second half, we've got renderings and courts and all the things. We'll come back and do that in the second half of the Temple Ticker. Let me take just a moment to tell you all about bestdjinutah.com. That is the website where you can learn all about me. Oh, sure, you probably feel like you know me, but you know me in the cultural hall sense. I have a DJ company, now 6 of us strong, great event hosts, MCs, and DJs that can be able to make whatever event you have coming up absolutely spectacular. and hope you will reach out to us. Now you're thinking, well, wait a minute, Richie. I don't live in Utah. Would you travel? Absolutely, I would travel. Would they travel? Absolutely, they would travel. Whatever your event is, doesn't have to be a wedding or a community event. We can do all sorts of things. I can teach you line dancing. I can dance with you. We can do partner dancing. We can do all kinds of things, but we can't do any of it if you don't hit me up. You can go to bestdjinutah.com. You can fill out the form to get more information or get a quote, and then I will get right back to you. Find out why I'm so busy and why sometimes we don't get episodes of the Cultural Hall. It's all because of bestdjinutah.com. Here in the second half of the Temple Ticker, oh, you do want to come with us to Elko? You can email us, contact@theculturalhall.com. I got 5 seats in my car. We could put another person in the front seat unless you annoy me, and another person in the back unless you annoy the Pharaoh. There's 4 of us. We could go, Kurt Frankham from Leading Saints is going to try and get in on that action. So there's probably only one other seat. Contact@theculturalhall.com if you would like to go to the Elko Temple with us. Will we do it? It's 50s. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Let's get to the rendering of the West Jordan, Utah Temple, which for a moment I sort of forgot about. Not the rendering, just that we had a West Jordan Temple.
Yeah, that was kind of under the radar. But let's see, it was announced in April 2024. So
Yeah,
about
spring,
a year ago.
last year. Yep.
It was announced with the Lehi Temple. A little bit after they announced the site, which is like far on the west side of the valley in a new housing subdivision, which helps because there's no neighbors there to protest
Yeah.
a large building that will be lit up at night.
Sure.
And this will be a large building. It's 85,000 square feet, 3 stories, a white color, kind of like a bronze steeple. Only 1 tower. So this is the same design that they're using in Linden right now that they're building. And but Linden has 2 spire towers on each side of it's kind of a long rectangle temple. So it's interesting that they just have 1 with this. I don't know if like all of a sudden there's a little bit of austerity. Oh, we can't do the second one. We need to save some money. I don't know. It's it's a lot of people I saw online were kind of disappointed by the design, kind of thought it was boring.
Yeah, it's a little
I think
simple.
simple, but I think the one in Linden, now that it's being almost complete, I think it's pretty stunning. So maybe don't sleep on this one once it's built.
Yeah, so back off, every naysayer. Come on. I to the single, the glory. I got nothing. And then as far as Linden, though, we don't have a dedication date. And as far as Smithfield goes, we don't have any sort of thing like that either, right?
I don't, but
We won't have.
those temples are basically the exterior of the temple is finished, and so a lot of people are waiting for that announcement for dedication.
Okay. Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah, this temple continues to surprise me. I did not expect it to be announced because there's only 2 stakes in the area, and then when they announced the size, it was 30,000 square feet. So then we saw the rendering released, so it looks like they're making fast progress. Yeah, it's a 1-story, 30,000 square foot building, kind of a white color with a kind of that gray bronze cupola. And yeah, it looks pretty similar to the temple that's being built right now in Fort Worth, or maybe the one in Austin or Bakersfield. Kind of looks like a mixture between those 3 styles. So.
And not many saints in that area, because a lot of the site that you sort of always link to is the Church of Jesus Christ Temples.org, which is not a website of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, just so everyone knows. But they have like user submitted photos, and there's a picture of the rendering and a picture of the ground before anything was done to it. That's what you can see of the Huntsville, Alabama temple.
Yeah, that's right.
As you look at it.
It's actually going to be in Madison, Alabama. So they have a site there that's like 22 acres, which is super big as well. So I'm really interested to see what they do at the site.
Now we get to some construction updates. Courts cases, quick cases of the court. What is going on in Nevada? Why can't it just be done?
Yeah, the city of Las Vegas has already approved the Lone Mountain Nevada temple. There was a group of neighbors that were upset that they felt like the temple, the lighting and the height violated I think they call it a regional agreement or something that had been passed a few years or decades ago for the area. But the Las Vegas city just, I guess, decided that it wasn't a violation, and the district court just dismissed their lawsuit. But they filed an appeal to the Supreme Court. So it kind of looks like a Hail Mary. Usually the Supreme Court doesn't take up appeals to things that were already dismissed. Um, but they're hoping that because in Cody, Wyoming, that the Supreme Court's hearing the case, that maybe the Nevada Supreme Court will also hear it.
Hmm. So basically, though, remains to be seen. And lest people think that it's an ill-named temple, if you look at the picture, there is a lone mountain, and it is in fact by said lone mountain. So it will in fact be the Lone Mountain Temple.
Yeah, honestly, because this one's in the city of Las Vegas. The OG Las Vegas temple is in Clark County. So this will be Las Vegas's technically first temple.
Because Clark County Temple didn't sound very good. I get it. I just wish it seems a little bit more okay. Jacksonville. This was interesting. It part of the cost, I suppose. Cost
Yeah,
of doing business.
this is behind a paywall, but the headline is that Latter-day Saints file for a $7.5 million permit for the Jacksonville, Florida temple. So that looks like they're going forward with all the approvals. I did not realize that just like a permit for a project like this was so much money. Um,
Well,
so
if they can get the money, let me tell you what a city will do. It will get the money. I tried to get an additional like water spigot essentially to my side property just to even like, hey, you get the privilege of having this. It's $5,000.
yeah.
Great. And it's not like I'm farming or, like I have swaths of land. It is nope, it's 5,000. Is there anything I can do to make it less? Nope. Oh, you want to do it here? That's 12,000. Okay. Is there any way to not do it that way? Nope. You can do it there for 5. Cool. It's yeah, just in scale. I think they just are like, listen, you want to do this? Large chunk of money. Thank you. But I don't know that I considered that with all of the temples being built, that there would likely be just a big cost of, hey, we want to do this thing.
Yeah, I think it's probably for more like utilities. It's trying to extend sewer, water, all
Mhm.
that to the site. It is in kind of a rural area, kind of like it looked like an agricultural field. So that might just be the cost of the utility.
Yeah, taking it out there, sure. But we own most of Florida, so any day we'll just be like, we call this Temple View, Florida.
Yeah, this will be like I think the fifth because there'll be 5 temples in Florida.
So then we go to the site announced for the Nigeria temple, the Ekit. Is that how you say that?
Aket maybe.
Okay.
Um, Yeah, the church announced a site for the Aket Nigeria temple. It'll be on a 7-acre site on the road that's in between Aket and Oron, in a place kind of known as Ikot Ipikob, right near there, just outside the city of Aket, local government area. Um, yeah, this temple will be a 1-story, 18,850 square feet, and they'll have a meeting house as well. Um, this area of Nigeria is, if you go look on the meeting house locator of the church, area of Nigeria has a very dense membership. You have all these very small, drawn out towns, and you have like a meeting house almost in every one of these little towns so that kind of signifies that there's a high density of members of the church in this area. I believe not far from the city is where there's that famous photograph of a bunch of people lined up to be baptized after the revelation of the priesthood ban reversal. So not far from here. So this is basically kind of the area where the church started in the 1970s.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Nigeria is the country of the most members of the church on the continent of Africa.
Yeah, that's right. Almost
Yeah.
a quarter of a million now.
Yeah, just incredible. Jeez. Okay. So going back to our roots, we go to the Preston, England temple.
Yeah, this is something that the church has not officially talked about, but the Lancashire Post is talking that has a headline, Huge Mormon temple site in Shore Lake could get even bigger. Here's what leaders want to do. So I guess there's already an MTC and some patron housing and the largest temple in Europe there. But they said that there's plans to build a new building, which they described the new building as including a visitor center and two accommodation buildings for up to 554 people, an auditorium for 754 people, cafeteria, a teaching and learning building up to 75 people, and there would also be a place to have games and a lot of landscaping and stuff like that, and more parking. Um, so the church told the borough council that if the church has a belief that the church has a critical role for young members, um, and that this building would help do that. One of the primary functions of the Learning Center is to accommodate a program run by the church called FSY for the Strength of Youth. Those are large, they say they're large scale residential activity programs for people ages 14 to 18. And they'll travel across the world, probably across mostly Europe to attend these FSY. So it's interesting that probably the Europe area is going to build this large accommodation center, and probably everyone from youth from all across Europe will attend this every summer.
That's awesome. That's seriously so cool. I thought it was interesting where it's like maybe even larger, but to know that that's all that it is, so cool. So very, very, very cool.
Yeah, it
Uh,
looks like in a lot of areas of the maybe you'll see this start in the future. I think the Philippines may have something similar to this as well. And then you'll probably see in other parts of the world that um, and in I think in Utah and other areas in the West, kind of those like scout camp areas that the church owned, a lot of them are being kind of converted to like kind of these FSY camps.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I know that we also use like campuses like BYU Idaho and BYU, and the church also will lease other universities, at least here in the state of Utah, lease or rent or pay a bunch of money that says, "Hey, Utah State in Logan or Southern Utah University in Cedar City, we want to use the dorms for this," and I'm sure they pay out and rent those out from those universities, which is a little bit different than it would be in Europe or the other states. Not to say they don't have universities, but maybe schooling is different or they can't do it or whatever the thing may be. So, listen, I welcome it in Utah. I'd love an FSY auditorium down the road. Sure. The doTERRA FSY auditorium brought to you by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Okay. So, then take me here because we've got secretive temples, which I've got to know about. Secretive temples.
Yeah, the conversation out down under in Australia has a headline, Why the Mormon Church is on an expansive project with two secretive new temples planned for Australia. So apparently they're secretive, even though they were announced at General Conference.
Yeah.
This
To
last
millions of people.
this last conference, one was announced for Liverpool in New South Wales, which is just south of Sydney. And then a year ago, there was one for the South Brisbane area for a second temple. Um, I expected this. I predicted the South Brisbane one because it's a small temple, just one of those small Hinkley ones. And Brisbane, a lot of people from all across the Pacific move there. There's a great climate, probably good economy. They're going to host the Olympics in 2032.
Mhm.
So Brisbane has been growing a lot and a lot of members. There's regularly new stakes and congregations there. A lot of people from Tonga, Samoa have moved there in the last decade. So it wasn't a surprise that they're going to build a second temple in Brisbane. But the one for Liverpool, for Sydney, was kind of a surprise because there's not as many new stakes there. They haven't grown as much. The temple there is a little bit larger, can accommodate more people. So that kind of was a surprise to me at least. But yeah, this headline is that apparently there's two secretive new temples, and maybe they're more referring to what happens inside the temple rather than like the building of the temple.
Yeah, because they
Uh,
use the token phrase of "it's sacred, not secret" within the article. Okay, all right. They'll
yeah, that's
let
right.
you
They
in
they
at
quote the
first.
Desert News. They quote the Desert News with that. So
Towards the
uh,
end of the article, it mentions how sure the doors will be open, but only for a short time, and then closed, and you won't be able to get in again. Further adding to the mystique and secretive nature of the. All right, all right. So
yeah,
not secretive like we didn't tell anyone. Secretive like y'all can't come unless A, B, C, and D. Okay. Okay. Well, How do you feel about all that news? You feel good?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel
is
good
what it
about
is.
it too. Is what it is. What are we looking forward to? Are there things that you're like, hey, we got to be seeing this pretty soon? The calendar would tell me this, or something along those lines.
Yeah, this coming weekend, the Lethbridge, Alberta temple will have a groundbreaking. On this coming Monday, the Abidjan Ivory Coast temple will have a media day. We'll see that open house, and then in May, the Syracuse temple opens up for open house, and we'll see more groundbreakings and open houses. So it's going to be a busy spring.
All right, bring it on. The redemption of the Lord, or not the Lord, of everyone else for the Lord. You get what I meant. Or the redeemed. That's what I'm saying. I hope that this episode has nourished and strengthened your body.
We hope that if you're able to listen this week, that you'll be able to listen next week.
And that when the time comes, you will be able to travel home in safety. In the meantime, Chris at Alpine Lakes Travel, Debbie Wanless, Chocolate Cake Bites Podcast, and the Tiger, with a U, will be saving a seat for you
On the back row
of
the
Cultural
Cultural Hall.
Save me a seat, it's sure to be neat on the back row. We read